We primarily serve home service-based businesses, home improvement businesses, both here in the UK, but also in the US as well. Our agency journey probably got started back in late 2012. And at the time we were doing like local web design and just dipping our toes in a bit of SEO. One of the algorithm updates came out that pretty much tanked our entire process of ranking websites. So then we learned how to do SEO the proper way. So building content, building different pages specific to different topics. And then what we found from our own agency perspective was that we were getting a high level of client churn after 4-6 months, just because despite getting great rankings, good traffic results for clients, it didn't necessarily or always lead to getting more leads. We just found with our process at the time, it didn't work. And that led us to kind of stumble upon Google Ads. We were referred to a firm by one of our existing clients or contacts. They contacted us asking, hey, do you guys run Google Ads? And within the first month, we doubled the number of leads that they were previously getting working with a law firm marketing specialist. And this was just using Google Ads in combination with a landing page. And that's where the light bulb moment really came to fruition for us. You don't have to wait 6 months and you can get results like right now and the clients are happy. So we then switched all of our clients over to Google Ads and never looked back since. 3 kind of things that we see. It's number 1 is getting enough leads. The second is the rising cost per lead, depending on which advertising channel you're in, whether that's Facebook, whether it's Google. Everyone at some point experiences cost per lead just going up and up and up. And then the final part of the equation in terms of challenges are lead quality. People don't just want more leads, but they want better leads. Clients or prospects expect that they're just going to get name, email, phone number. Now clients and stuff want a lot more details to come with the leads that they're paying for. So what that lead is specifically looking for, when do they want it, how much are they budgeting to pay for it, all this sort of information, like the whole overall expectations of leads now is a lot higher than it was previously. We normally will first look at whether their marketing or the business is viable, because every industry is going to have a different cost per lead. And especially in Google Ads, which is mainly what we do, it's our bread and butter, cost per clicks, we can't really change too much. We can do things to bring it down, but ultimately for a certain keyword, there's going to be a certain cost. Now, based on what their project values are worth or what they charge their clients, sometimes it might not be good unit economics where it's even viable. For example, I think roofing now in the US is extremely expensive. And when you pay cost per clicks of like $100, you have to like guarantee a conversion rate of 25% upwards. And that's not always possible. So we look at these things, first of all, to assess, is it viable? If it is, and hopefully in most cases it kind of is, otherwise no one would be marketing on there. We then start to look at a couple of different things. The first thing being the traffic source. So are they running Google Ads or are they running Meta ads? So if they're running Google Ads, we want to first assess, is the quality of the traffic that they're paying for the right people? Because without that, it doesn't matter how good your landing page is if you're attracting the wrong traffic. If we go inside the account, what we'll typically do is run a light audit and just get a feel for the campaign setup that they've got going on and understand whether or not their traffic is the right audience. Like, are these people legitimately looking for what this business is providing? If yes, and they are still not getting conversions, then that's where we need to turn our attention to where they're sending the traffic or the destination of where their ads are pointing the traffic. And this can be the website, or it often is a landing page. And usually, if you're running ads, you have one of 2 problems. It's either a traffic problem or a conversion problem. And we often see the conversion problem come up a lot more so than the traffic, because you show something, you write a nice ad, you target the right keywords, get the traffic, and then really now the job of the landing page to do the hard work, convince that person to make an inquiry. So we will do an assessment of their landing page and often find a lot of the same mistakes people make on a landing page, which are causing a lack of them actually getting conversions, whether it's a lack of trust, the design, load speed, usability, loads of different things can play into this. That's typically where we look when diagnosing their issues with lead generation. The biggest impact thing is your landing page. You can spend the same amount that you've got in terms of ad budget, and a simple improvement to the clarity of a headline, the right image that's being used on the page, can make the difference between a 5 and 10% improvement in conversion rate. And when you factor that into what you're currently paying in terms of cost per lead, and then what that can mean for your campaign, you're basically getting more leads for the exact same cost just by changing things in terms of the design. Some industries, especially something like a moving service or a junk removal service, can be a lot shorter in terms of length, in terms of like how many questions we're asking. At the same time, you've got to factor in and really consider putting yourself into the shoes of a prospect and thinking, if your core offer on the page is getting a free quote, then you need to ask enough questions to make them feel like that they are actually going to get a custom quote, rather than asking two simple qualification questions, then going straight in for their contact details. They're like, well, how actually are you going to calculate my quote based on that small amount of information? Same thing if you're running a campaign for a kitchen remodeling company. We'll typically offer a free design consultation. To qualify people for this, we need to get an idea of, how big is their kitchen? What styles are they looking for? Are they just looking for a cabinet refresh or full remodel? So everything is going to be very dependent on the specific industry that we are building the flow for. But the key thing that we found is really personalizing it to that sector. So rather than going for a very generic approach where it's like, are you the homeowner? How soon do you want to start? It is asking a bit more creative questions that people can relate to and think, I didn't think that they would be asking that. But also at the same time, making them easier enough to answer. So you don't want a lot of open field questions. That will typically make people think more. It'll add more friction to them completing certain steps. The first thing that comes to mind is don't go straight in with asking for their contact details. If the offer is requesting a free quote and you're going straight in with like asking, your name first, people are like, well, how's that going to be conducive to crafting my quote? And in terms of like the do's, it's asking very simple questions that people can understand and will be able to easily answer. That's the key kind of thing that we see within the flows that we build. So having a drop down or having a different button selection, perhaps it's even using a image selector, which is one of the features inside of Heyflow, which works really well, is to get people to kind of visually see the option that they're selecting. That is a massive thumbs up, a big do in our books, because it really helps not only give people like a vision of, which thing that they're selecting, it actually gives you the opportunity to showcase your own work. If it is like showing different options of, for example, different kitchen remodeling styles that they might be interested in. Is it modern? Is it more classic? You can then visually show these, and people can then be like, oh yeah, that one looks really nice. And it's a good way to bring people in. But if we look at, landing pages in general, in terms of what's a big do, it's making sure that when people land on the page, first of all, it's very clear what the page is about. I often see so many times people use a background image, which actually looks okay and visible on desktop, but in reality and in practical sense, I think 70-80% of traffic is mostly mobile from a lot of campaigns, especially on social. It's probably more like 90%, maybe even higher than that. And what you'll find when people have designed a page, there often isn't a clear hero image. And if you are advertising a service like remodeling for kitchens, bathrooms, whatever it may be, it's a very visual service. It's something people aspire to have a great looking new kitchen or a new home. And what you'll find is there is no hero images, which is, good if the headline's clear. But what you'll often find is people will create a page and then the headline often lacks clarity. So people don't understand what the page is about. And if people don't understand what the page is about in the first 5 seconds, they're going to leave. If you can clearly communicate what you do and your value proposition in those first 5 seconds, then it's a statistical certainty that people will stay longer on your website and then take the action that you are looking for them to take, whether that's a quote, whether it's a free design consultation, you name it. The importance of having a landing page specifically to home improvement businesses, home improvement campaigns, is that it gives you the opportunity to showcase exactly what your business does, why people should use you in a snapshot, rather than using a page from your main website, which is often optimized more for SEO. There's a lot more text, a lot more content. It's less considered in terms of getting people to take the action that we want them to take. And with landing pages, they'll typically have a certain framework. And there are different frameworks that apply to different niches, industries, for example. One of the most common is the problem, agitate, solve, which is a certain framework to get people to feel a certain way, get them kind of feeling a little bit worse for wear about the situation they're currently in, and then offering them the solution. Now, you've got to know when to use the right landing page framework. You probably wouldn't use that framework to agitate someone who's looking to have their junk removed. It's not an aspirational service. They just want something done. Every page, every industry will have a certain best framework that you can apply to it. So that is showcasing the business in the best possible light, giving people a very clear offer or next steps, whether that is asking for a free estimate, quote, design consultation. It's kind of up to you and the business of what they're looking to promote. And then actually having this one page where you can really focus in and craft very good copy that resonates with the visitors and walks people through exactly why people should use you, showcasing the best of the best projects that you've done, case studies, testimonials. And then ultimately as well, when it comes to having the flow on the page, is giving people a great or exceptional user experience to then take that next step and make them feel like they are getting a personalized quote or experience by completing the different steps. Because at the end of the day, what you see on most landing pages is just a very straightforward contact form, which is jammed right up in the hero section, which does work. I'm not knocking that, but for certain industries, if you, for example, think about, like, let's take kitchen remodeling. People aren't just going to look at the hero section. People are going to invest $100,000 into a new project. They're going to read a bit more about the company. Having that understanding of the specific industry, the information that people will probably be looking for. And again, using your common sense to build out a page that is going to convince people to get in touch with you with whatever offer that you've got on the page. I guess if you're trying to find like the perfect blueprint for a certain industry, one of the things that we do is we will look at all the top competitors in the country. What are they doing? Often the case is these companies have been running ads for a long time. They have already proven their success. And what we want to do is just kind of build on that. We're not saying like just because they're a big company and they've had a lot of success, like their landing page is the best. What we want to do is just take elements from what they've done and then really personalize it to the company that we're working with and basically creating the best experience possible. The key thing for having success and consistent proven success every time is really putting yourself in the shoes of the prospect and understanding what things on the page are required for me to then take action. So let's take an example of a auto locksmith. You've lost your car keys, you've been locked out your car. The key things that we need to communicate on the page are, well, first of all, that we are what they've been searching for, so an auto locksmith. Where are you based and how soon can you get to me? Those are kind of like, and are you available? Those are kind of like the key things that we need to include on the page and answer, get or convey very soon on. Same thing if you're advertising, high-end kitchen remodeling services. You're going to need to showcase past projects. If you wanted high quality prospects inquiring with you, you have to showcase the quality of your work. You're not going to get by on just, showing one project. You have to show like consistent imagery, all the different things that you've done. You've got to really kind of prove yourself. Really, like if you're trying to, I guess, have repeatable success dependent on the industry. And then when you're building your flow, it is just asking the right questions or giving people a good enough reason to begin the flow. That I think is the key thing here, is having a very good first question step. Because the way we do it, we embed all of our flows onto landing pages. So we've got like the classic, I guess, landing page experience. We've got above the fold hero section. We've got testimonials. We've got a lot of content on that page. We will typically put Heyflow or our flow either right below the above the fold section or the hero section. And our key thing is just getting people to start it, because we know if we can get people to answer the first question, then we can get people to answer the second, then the next one. And then the typical thing that we come across is on that final step is asking for their contact details. That's probably one of the bigger challenges where you see the biggest drop-off rates. Depending on the industry, of course, certain industries, people are more than happy to part with their personal details, but it's also aligning expectation as well. People will probably be more likely to part with their details for a offer which doesn't require them jumping on a sales call. So if people feel like it's going to be a sales call, you probably need to reframe the start of the flow or the kind of core offer on the page. The other thing that I think is something that we've had a lot of success with over the years is actually asking prospects how they would like to be contacted, setting the expectation of what the next steps looks like. So whether is that picking up via email, is it sending an SMS is the best way to contact them, or is it a phone call, or perhaps it's someone coming for a free in-home estimate as an option. And it's giving people that option, and it is a bit of a risk because you would expect, I kind of want to, kind of like sneakily fool people into giving the contact details and then job done. But at the same time, like as an agency, our goal is to get qualified leads for our clients. And with the flow that we've got in place, it's a perfect opportunity to qualify people and ask them, how do they want to be in contact? And it then sets the expectation on the next steps for them actually to provide their legit information. That I would say applies to pretty much all the flows that we build. Regardless of the questions that come before it, I think that's a really key component to having a successful flow, because what you'll find, especially on Facebook as well, is that you'll get people who think just getting a quote, they'll answer all the details and then put fake details in at the end. And so just having a step which kind of really calls out to be like, are you serious? Or how do you want to receive your quote? How do you want to proceed next? It really makes a difference. Just doing more content that appeals to your prospects, whether that be like video examples of the stuff you've done and advertising that, whether that's on Meta, YouTube, and just having a very, hybrid approach across all channels. I think if you're still relying solely on one channel, yes, it can work. And, being a Google Ads agency, we've relied on that for a long time, but the landscape is changing. We've got ChatGPT, large language models all out there. The whole kind of landscape for search is going to be changing. And the more attractive that you can make yourself for potential clients, putting yourself in the places that they are hanging out, whether that is on Google, and like for something like emergency locksmith services, that is currently and still will be Google for a long time, unless something else changes. But then it's also doing the other things like video content marketing that kind of really give you that authority, building a bit more of a brand than what other people are doing. That's what's going to give you the edge, is making yourself more appealing. You'll find in Google Ads, you click on an ad and then it says, we're the #1 dental clinic in Manhattan. Well, says who? Like if you have 2,000 Google reviews to prove it, then yes, you can kind of say that, but it's like having real proof to back up the statements that you make and really like separate yourself from what everyone else is doing. Whether that's even simple things like just having good team photos and pictures of, your staff and office team, that a lot of people sleep on, especially home improvement businesses. Like you often find like they've got branded vans, they've got staff uniform, but there's no pictures of the team at work. There's no pictures of them driving over, like interactions with customers, all the sort of things that you can really do to just showcase that, hey, I'm a real business. I'm local to you guys. This is the business owner's face. It makes a massive difference. And the assets that you can use across, on your website, your landing pages, thank you pages, you can run ads with them. Put it on organics, social. You can do a lot with that sort of stuff. And I'm always a massive believer in that sort of stuff when it comes to design and advertising. It's just how to make yourself just look more legit than other people, more friendly, like find an angle and just lean into it. Because the advertising channels, Google, Meta, they're always going to be there. There might be small things and little hacks that you can do. But if you just look more legit, like a better company that people trust than compared to the alternatives, then you're going to have success. Say, for example, you've got a website, maybe that's like the kind of ideal starting point. Then the next thing is really then getting traffic or getting eyes on your website, getting people to it, or at least becoming familiar with your brand. And to do that, there's quite a few things. There is, of course, better ads. You can advertise on Facebook, Instagram, very, very visual way to do it. You can do it pretty cost effectively as well. Same on YouTube ads. You can run YouTube Shorts. Will be dependent on who your audience is as to whether it's the right fit. But if you're a service which is kind of like urgent, maybe emergency, then you probably would be looking more so at what you can do in Google Ads, so appearing for people who are actively searching for you. There is also local service ads on Google too that will require you to have a Google business profile, also a decent number of reviews, because really people will pick from a list of local based businesses based on their review count. So the more reviews that you can start collecting, the better. And with Google local service ads, you pay based on a cost per lead basis. So you pay every time you actually get a phone call. So that's often a very good starting point if your service qualifies for it. It doesn't apply to all services that you do, but for any kind of local service-based businesses, it's a very good starting point if you also have enough reviews which look attractive for potential people to get in touch with you. I'd say like the three main kind of channels that you can look at, or Google, Meta ads, and also just building content on your website. I don't know how I've been out the game too long in terms of like SEO and building blog post content, but the way I look at building content now is more from the perspective, rather than trying to like rank it and get traffic to it, is like using content as an asset that you can then send to prospects, or use it as like a bit of a tool to, just have, which is useful for anyone who is checking you out. For example, you might have a about the company video. It might not rank, it might not get any traffic, but any prospects that do inquire with you, you can send them that video. And that is also a very useful asset to have. And if it lives online, then it should in theory be picked up on Google, potentially any ChatGPT searches as well. That is one thing to bear in mind, is like the more authority that you have as a company, the more assets that you have online, that will, in theory, be picked up by any kind of search engine or large language model that is pulling from, different sources online. In theory, I think. I might be completely wrong about that, but it makes sense to me in my head, and I believe that is how it should, in theory, work. I would probably suggest, in terms of a starting point, is really just assessing the channel that you're using to get leads from. Some people, it might be a pay-per-lead channel. That's often quite common for home improvement businesses. You pay per lead from these lead generation sites. But, often the case is that they sell leads to multiple companies, and then it just becomes kind of like a bidding war to the bottom price, which obviously you don't want to be in. But if you're running your own ads, on the other hand, and you're struggling, it might be the case that the ads that you're running, it might be on the wrong channel. It might be like Facebook or Meta ads is not the best channel for you. Maybe it's Google ads is just too expensive to start with. So you should actually look towards doing more video-based marketing rather than advertising on Google search network, if depending on your budget, because your whole strategy will be dependent on the available budget that you have. If it is on the lower end side of things, then I would lean more towards advertising on something like Meta, where you can get more impressions, more views, more clicks at a better value cost. Depending on the service that you're advertising, of course. I wouldn't take that approach for a emergency-based campaign, which naturally lends itself to Google much better. That's where I'd start. So again, it's always using your common sense to think about, okay, where are my potential customers hanging out? Where are they making their searches from? Or where are they just, browsing stuff? And how can I reach them in the most cost-effective way possible? And it doesn't necessarily matter what channel you start with, as long as that you have good reason for people to be there and having the right approach to get them. And if you can get clicks from legit people on whatever channel, it then does come down to where are you sending that traffic. And so while you can have the best campaign in the world, the best Google Ads campaign targeting the best possible traffic, if you're leading them to a page which is slow, it's unclear, it doesn't have a great user experience, then it's all going to be for nothing. So you're going to need a page or a landing page or a website that does get people taking action. One of the tools that we use is Heyflow. We found that it really does outperform standard forms most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time, especially for more complicated services, especially when we're looking for more qualified leads. That kind of is, I would say, the starting point when it comes to paid advertising. Good campaign setup, targeting the right people, regardless of what channel, as long as the right people are there, and taking them to a page where you give them an easy way to get in contact and it's clear and you look like a good, reputable company to work with. It's, not rocket science. Literally just have better conversion rate on the back end. You can only scale something that's working. And one of the best things to improve what's working is improving your conversion rate. It is by far one of the biggest levers that you can pull. It allows you to get more leads for the same advertising budget that you're currently spending. So if you can improve your landing page experience, you can get more leads from the current budget and traffic that you're currently getting, then you can actually spend more. So that's kind of like the key to unlocking how you can scale is having a good conversion rate on the back end where people are coming to your page, they are getting in touch, and you are turning those traffics into new leads. And then using something like Heyflow or having a good form where you can actually capture the right details from people, better qualify people than just standard forms, which they have a good, place in the market for certain things. But if you are really looking to capture high intent leads, get the information that you want, you do need like a flow-based system to really pre-qualify people and make sure that businesses are getting the leads that they want at the end of the day. You can only improve lead quality if you're actually measuring it. So while you can ask clients, oh, how was it this month? It's often not going to really showcase the specific details that allow you to make the decisions to improve lead quality. So it does come down to implementing a lead tracking and attribution system where we hold our clients accountable to update the quality or quotable status of each lead that comes through via the campaigns and whether that lead actually led to a quote or a sales value. That information you can then feed back into the advertising platform so we can better understand where good quality leads are coming from. And every business will have a different or slightly different definition of what a quality lead looks like. And what we do is just define them before we launch the campaign. So if you're measuring lead quality, then you can improve lead quality, especially if you can then track data back to your advertising campaigns. It just makes it a lot easier. So you can understand what campaigns, what keywords are creating bad quality leads, which might be out of area, it might be uncontactable. You can then start to really diagnose issues if you have a problem with bad quality leads. So that's kind of like the key to fixing lead quality. It's just to measure it.